Why couldn't Jesus' disciples cast out the demon from a young boy? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Luke on Walking Through the Bible. If you have a Bible with you, turn to Luke chapter 9. We're going to be reading from verses 37 to 48. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So Luke chapter 9, beginning at verse 37. Now it happened on the next day, when they had come down from the mountain, that a great multitude met him. Suddenly a man from the multitude cried out, saying, Teacher, I implore you, look on my son, for he is my only child. And behold, a spirit seizes him, and he suddenly cries out, and it convulses him so that he foams at the mouth, and it departs from him with great difficulty, bruising him. So I implored your disciples to cast it out, but they could not. Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you and bear with you? Bring your son here. And as he was still coming, the demon threw him down and convulsed him. Then Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit, healed the child, and gave him back to his father. And they were all amazed at the majesty of God. But while everyone marveled at all these things which Jesus did, he said to his disciples, Let these words sink down into your ears, for the Son of Man is about to be betrayed into the hands of men. But they did not understand this saying, and it was hidden from them, so that they did not perceive it. And they were afraid to ask him about this saying. Then a dispute arose among them as to which of them would be the greatest. And Jesus, perceiving the thought of their heart, took a little child and set him by him, and said to them, Whoever receives this little child in my name receives me, and whoever receives me receives him who sent me, for he who is least among you will be great. In our last lesson, we had Jesus being transfigured on the mountain into his spiritual body and speaking to Moses and Elijah about his impending death. Peter thought that the point of seeing this was so that they could build 3 tabernacles, one for Moses, Elijah, and Jesus. God the Father from heaven made it clear when he spoke that they were to do no such thing, for Jesus was the only one that they were to hear and follow. Coming out of verse 37, we find a detail that Matthew and Mark left out, which is that these events concerning the boy with the demon occurred on the day after the transfiguration. For Matthew and Mark, we knew this event was closely connected in time, but we didn't know by how much. What we find is that when Jesus came down from the mountain, he was met by a multitude of people. Luke tells us that a man came out of the crowd crying out to Jesus to help his only son, for he was possessed by a demon. This demon caused the boy to suffer greatly, for it caused him to seize up, to convulse, and to foam at the mouth. What is being described to us here is that the man's son is crazy. Now the man said that he had taken his son to his disciples, but they could not cure him. When had the man done this? It is most likely just before this man came to Jesus, meaning that Jesus was among the multitudes for a short period of time before this event happened. Jesus' response was one of exasperation, for he said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Was he speaking about this man or this man's son? No, for from Mark's account, in Mark 9:14-29, we know that the man said that he believed that Jesus could cast the demon out. So if Jesus wasn't talking about the man or his son, who was he talking about? The disciples. He was displeased with their lack of faith. He told the man to bring his son to him, after which Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, but not before causing this boy one more instance of great pain. With the demon gone, the boy was now healed and given back to his father. The event itself was spectacular to see, for this demon caused the boy to do some terrible things, yet Jesus cast it out by the word of his power. Luke tells us that the people were all amazed by the majesty of God. But while the people were marveling, Jesus was telling his disciples that he would be betrayed into the hands of men and would die. Think about that juxtaposition for a moment. The people were magnifying Jesus as God, yet not long from then, Jesus was going to be betrayed and die. It's amazing how just a little time can change a whole lot of things. The disciples didn't understand what Jesus was saying, probably for the reason that they couldn't fathom that the Messiah, the Savior of the world, would have to die. And because they were afraid to ask him about it, they didn't get to understand what that meant until much later. We can run into that problem too. We're confused about something, yet because of fear, we don't ask someone who might be knowledgeable to help us clear up the confusion. Therefore, we remain confused. That was the condition of the disciples. However, even though they were confused on this, that didn't stop them from disputing amongst themselves about who would be the greatest. Remember, Jesus only took Peter, James, and John onto the mountain to see the transfiguration. Even though the other disciples may not have known why Jesus went up to the mountain, by taking only 3 of them could have easily led to pride among the 3 that were taken. And while they didn't directly ask Jesus here about who would be the greatest, Jesus could perceive their hearts. So Jesus took a child and set him in the midst of them and said, "Whoever receives this little child in my name receives me, and whoever receives me receives him who sent me. For he who is least among you all will be great." By using the child as an example, Jesus was telling his disciples that they needed to be humble. They didn't need to compete with each other as to who would be the greatest, for that was unimportant. Why? Because God resists the proud but gives grace to the humble. Sometimes I fear that Christians can develop the same attitude as the disciples and wonder who is the best at following Christ. Instead, we need to learn humility and work with all people, no matter who they are, in order that as many as can be saved today. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Luke chapter 9, verses 49 to 56, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.